I have loved the new Kylo Ren leader from Legends of the Force ever since he was first spoiled. He is such a fun concept for a leader, and thankfully we saw him do incredibly well in the competitive metagame with plenty of green Kylo and red Kylo decks performing obviously great at every level of play, even up to the finals of the Galactic Championship. But I wanted to get a deck profile out there for Kylo at least at some point during the season. And now that we're starting to go into the Secrets of Power spoiler season, I gotta get this out there. I gotta show you all. And you all know I love posting weirder takes on decks or goofy ideas here. So in this video, we're gonna take a look at the deck I've been testing for a little while, my Kylo Ren Yellow Force deck. Let's take a look at it. What's up everyone, it's Dan with Main Deck and welcome back to another Star Wars Unlimited deck profile where today we're looking at Kylo Ren Yellow Force. Now, of all the variants of Kylo Ren, this is one that is more on the control side of the spectrum where you're happy to spend a lot of your earlier turns just playing cards to control what the opponent's board looks like. Sometimes you put down a unit, sometimes you attach an upgrade to it and swing, and actually we're using a really fun combination here where I really wanted to make the Kylo Ren unit work, do some actual stuff, and I'm going to teach you all a little rule trick that you may or may not have already known to make him get you some of that card advantage he's trying to accrue. But without any further ado, let's jump into this list, because as you control the board, you eventually just get to flip Kylo and swing and win, and that's a lot of fun, but let's see how we achieve that here. Now, of course, Kylo Ren, we're not done yet, is our leader, and he has the ability, action, exhaust, discard a card from your hand. If you discarded an upgrade this way, draw a card. And so you, of course, want to use this ability when you can. I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I have for people playing these Kylo Ren decks is not every time do you have an upgrade that do you want to discard it. Sometimes it's more important actually to play it to a unit when you think that unit can stick and play for a turn or two, or this can really affect combat math for your opponent. Sometimes it's important to hold on to some of our upgrades here. Like we were playing yellow, we have some upgrades that are actually good at dealing with the opponent's stuff, and you don't just want to pitch those right away. And sometimes you need to take the initiative. I think, of course, that's one of the biggest mistakes people make playing Star Wars Unlimited is valuing something over taking the initiative. And you just gotta work on kind of playing it out and figuring out, okay, do I need to discard this right now, or do I need to take the initiative? And I'd say for Kylo Ren in particular, one thing to remember is that you want to get to an effective flip turn. And he, of course, is going to flip on turn 7. When he flips, you're going to get to play any number of upgrades from your discard pile onto Kylo. You do have to pay the cost for every one, but you get to immediately play those onto Kylo, which can immediately buff him up, make him huge. And with one of our upgrades here, you get to immediately attack as well. And so your goal is really to situate yourself, ideally, for a play where you get to flip Kylo out, get an attack off, and the opponent is going to really be tempted to not take the initiative so that you can potentially take the initiative right afterwards, get another attack off. That's the ideal goal, because as soon as you get 2 attacks off with a buffed up Kylo Ren, you basically win the game against almost every single deck. You're hitting base for usually minimum 10 damage, upwards of like 13, 14, pretty doable with this deck. And so against a lot of bases, that's just 2 swings and you win the game, right? Even if you can only get 1 swing off, your opponent usually has to put so many resources into dealing with Kylo Ren outside of particular cards that will just ace him, that once they've done that, you have also effectively won the game. So that's the goal, right? You need to get your your discard pile set up, too many different card games, your discard pile set up with the right number of upgrades so that when that opportunity presents itself, you are able to pay the costs and flip that Kylo out with the kind of the optimized amount of upgrades on him, deal that damage, put a big thorn in your opponent's side, and potentially win the game afterwards. So that usually comes down to, I think some of the most efficient plays with Kylo are 3 upgrades you want to play. One of my favorites in this list is 2 constructed lightsabers and a snapshot reflexes. You don't always even have to use all 7 resources, because you can do things like hold up 2 for a no good to me dead and play out 5 on him instead. which might look like a constructed lightsaber and a Kylo Ren's lightsaber or something. We'll look at all the options a little later on. The other thing to remember too is you don't always want to flip him on turn 6. You don't always want to do it at 7. With this blue-yellow control variant, we have a lot of ways to hold down the fort and open up this opportunity for that one attack to be even more overwhelming. And especially if you drop, we see this a lot in the red, the Tarkin Town version of this deck, if you drop one of those early units, get an upgrade on it, and get some damage off, you can get it to the point where you only need to get one Kylo Ren attack off and it's lethal if you just wait long enough. So it's very matchup dependent. It's going to be something where if you do try this deck out, you sleeve it up, you start playing it, you want to feel out all the different matches and see kind of where you need to prioritize doing what. I will say right away, there's some matchups that are rough for this deck because like most Kylo Ren decks, it has to kind of forgo space to be able to fit all the upgrades in, as you can see. So our space control is just going to be our events. We're trying to hold off a lot of those decks that are in the format that are just running 6 to 9 space units, and that's kind of it. Those are easier ones typically for this deck to hold off, and it's got answers to just about everything. But you're going to go up against the Han Solo Tarkin Town decks that they just overwhelm you, Kaz aggro decks, and a big one right now in the format that people really are enjoying playing is Boba Fett Data Vault, and that deck is just, it's a hard matchup. They put so much pressure on you, and it's all ending in space usually, and you just kind of run out of ways to deal with them. But we've been tweaking the deck. We've been trying to make options so you can keep up with them. But that's enough talking about the leader. Of course, our base is Crystal Caves because we want the Force, because this is a Force-based deck, and that is almost entirely so we can activate the Kylo Ren unit that we'll talk about in a second, but it does work for some of the other units in here as well. Force isn't a big component of this deck, but like I said, I really wanted to make Kylo Ren I Know Your Story do stuff, and for all the people who are going to jump in the comments and say this would be better if it were a 30 health base or whatever, maybe, but I wouldn't get to use Kylo Ren I Know Your Story if it were, and that's the whole point of this. So let's jump in now. We're going to just talk really briefly about Karis, We Don't Like Strangers, who's one of our 2-drops. You just got to have good 2-drops in this deck. You got to drop something on ground that you can throw a lightsaber onto, and Karis is great. 2/4 when you have the Force. When defeated, you get to -2/-2 something. Love Karis because you can play a hotshot blaster onto her on turn 2, clear off your opponents like Adigalia or something, and then still have kind of a threatening thing on board, and you have the Force, and then you, with that Force, then going into the next turn, you're going to have your Darth Tyrannus active or something, so that all just always feels really good, and Karis is just annoying because when you clear her, then you can -2/-2, so she can get a little bit of extra value sometimes, so she's pretty cool. Now, Kylo Ren, I Know Your Story. This was a personal challenge for me because everyone, myself included, has looked at this unit and thought, why is he so not as good as he should be? Why? Like, he's a 2/3, right? And the 2/3 is Overwhelm, which is cool. And actually, in this deck is sometimes relevant, which is nice. But as a 2/3 for 2, he's just stat-wise behind everything. And what you get for that is, when you play an upgrade on him, you can use the Force to draw a card. And the problem is he's a 2-drop. So you play him turn 2, then you want to put an upgrade on before you attack. But you haven't attacked yet, so you don't have the Force. So what are you supposed to do with Kylo Ren? And my solution to this is we play multiple cards. We have Hotshot Blaster and we have Snapshot Reflexes. These are upgrades that have, when played, you get to attack with the attacked unit. Attack with the attached unit. And the way the rules work is very particular here. So you have 2 when played triggers. You have the when played of the upgrade, and you have Kylo Ren's when an upgrade is played on him, which is not a when played trigger, but it's the same timing as a when played trigger. And when you have 2 abilities with the same timing, you as the player get to choose what order those resolve in. So the very fun thing to do with Kylo Ren is drop him turn 1, and then turn 2, you have that Hotshot Blaster sitting in your resources. You Hotshot Blaster onto Kylo Ren, choose to use the attack off the Hotshot Blaster first, get the Force from Crystal Caves, then resolve that pending trigger, spend the Force, using Kylo Ren's ability to draw a card. I know it seems like a crazy amount of work just to get an extra card draw, but you smuggled the Hotshot Blaster as well. So you didn't play anything from hand this turn, but you got that resource back and you drew the card off of Kylo Ren. It's a weird little turn that ends up actually really setting you up nicely going into the mid game to have a decent chunk of cards in your hand. And as a sort of more control-oriented deck, that actually can mean a lot. When that Kylo Ren with that hotshot then takes out an Adi Gallia or something, then also drew you the card back because you smuggled the hotshot so you didn't spend the card there. You're just kind of getting into the situation now where the opponent, maybe they have to use another card to deal with the Kylo Ren, and everything's just kind of felt like you got the jump on the card advantage game compared to your opponent. It's a nice feeling. It works out pretty well. It's very fun. And for some people, it's a teaching moment for how the rules actually work, which is pretty cool. Now you can do this with snapshot reflexes as well, which is definitely lower down the list on what you want to do, because snapshot reflexes, first of all, you want to pitch to Kylo Ren as soon as you can. You want to make sure it's in there. But as the yellow version of Kylo Ren, we run all 3 snapshots. So it's not a big deal. You will sometimes have an extra snapshot reflexes. Sometimes 3 damage is all you need to do to get rid of something on board, and it feels reasonable to go ahead and do that. It also buffs Kylo Ren to be a 3/4, which is kind of nice. It's a little harder to take out. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if the opponent takes out your upgraded units as a Kylo Ren deck, you're fine with that, because those upgrades are just going to fuel you later on. So they're pretty nice. So it's been pretty fun. Maybe it's not your cup of tea. Maybe you want the most competitive Kylo Ren ever. And in that case, I'm not sure why you're here, because you know me at this point. I just like to have fun. And man, is that ever fun. Now, I had to talk plenty about that one. I promised the other cards were going to go a lot faster. Secret of Sage, guess what? It's a 2/2 shielded. That means you put an upgrade on it. It's really annoying to deal with. It's a Force unit. It gets the Force for Crystal Caves. That's why he's there. He does the work. Going on to our 3-drop ground unit, Shin Hati, Overeager Apprentice. Man, I love Shin Hati just as a character. I love the character design. I love the costuming. And I really like this card, a 4/2 shielded with hidden, really obnoxious to deal with. Really wields a constructed lightsaber well. She's a really scary 8 damage constructed lightsaber swing, 5 HP, shielded still, was hidden for a turn, so she takes these upgrades really well, because you almost always get that extra turn with them. So yeah, she's great. Obviously super vulnerable to stuff like Anakin, Champion of Mortis, that kind of stuff going around, or obviously like a Karis trades into something else and then minuses, but she is a nice threat. One of these cards that's really good in this deck, because you're going to get to the point sometimes where the opponent answers your Kylo Ren, and then you need units that can close the game. And as a 4 power unit in the late game, when the opponent's kind of run out of resources, she really can go the distance. So she's been really great. I've really enjoyed her. Darth Tyrannus, Servant of Sidious, is one of our other main uses, or actually I think the final use of the Force in the deck. Again, the Force isn't that important in here, but that's good, because Darth Tyrannus really wants you not to be spending the Force all the time to be able to get his effect off, because he gains ambush when you have the Force. So you kind of don't want to be spending it every turn, just so it's set up so when you do draw that Darth Tyrannus and it's relevant to just ambush him into something, you have it. So it works out pretty well. He's a 4/3 ambush shielded. And of course, remember the trick with ambush and shielded. They're both triggers that happen at the same timing, a lot like our Kylo Ren shenanigans. So if the opponent's going to deal not 3 damage back to him, if you're attacking your Darth Tyrannus into, again, an Adi Gallia or a Yaddle or something, you can often choose to take the 2 damage before you ambush first. So you resolve the attack. So you take the 2 damage before the shielded trigger. So then that shield potentially eats a bigger attack next turn. He can kind of take care of 3 things if the opponent doesn't deal with him. Otherwise, again, as another shielded unit alongside Secret of Sage and Shin Hati, he's a great wielder of all of our upgrades, all of our lightsabers. So kind of the Force package kind of works out in here. It kind of works out. It's kind of nice. Finally, our last unit in the deck is Anakin Skywalker, Champion of Mortis. And that's because we are going to be running a heroism upgrade that we're going to be able to discard, which is going to be really nice. And the card, he's busted. The card is insane. The card is crazy. Is probably the strongest card in Legends of the Force. He's crazy. What he does, absolutely absurd. So much fun. I think this card is one of the most fun designs in the game. This and Constructed Lightsaber in here are what are going to take this deck above a budget deck for sure, right? Those are going to be kind of the most expensive things that you do have to, you really want to have them. You really want to have them because both of them are huge upgrades to the deck. Now you could totally build this deck without them. You can replace them if you happen to have some like Vaders from Legends of the Force set 5. I guess you could put those in instead, but they're really slow. I actually ran them in here for a little while with Shen Flurry as a way to kind of do the Vader ambush trick, but it was awkward. It just didn't work out a lot of the time, but it is something I tested pretty extensively. And I just ended up resourcing both Vader or Shen Flurry a lot because I just couldn't hold on to them all the time. Whereas Anakin, you just almost, I mean, if you have to, you resource him just to make sure your first 2 turns are smooth, but you never really want to because the dude is a body on board. The dude answers the board. He's crazy. Putting a constructed lightsaber on him gives him Sentinel, and he's scary, really, really scary because he's a 7/9 with Sentinel that the opponent has to deal with. So he's so good in here no matter what. So try to, if you have Anakins, this is where you put him. You put him in almost any blue deck, but if you have them, I would definitely, if you don't have them, I would try to get them to start playing in decks like this. And I think going forward, Anakin is just going to be a powerhouse card in the game for the next year or two. All right, so moving on now. Again, no space units, okay? Look, we like to play risky here. We don't have room for space units. So if the opponent's got heavy space, that's going to be rough. That's the end of it. But we have some events that help control things. So first of all, 2 No Good to Me Dead. This has been absolutely clutch for me in this format and dealing with so many things. There are, of course, going to be gigantic leaders that you're just not quite equipped with to deal with because your leader's flipping a turn or 2 later, and that can really hold them off for a long time. One of the big things I'm very scared about is always pilots like Boba dropping on ships. And when you can predict that and hold up those 2 and go, yeah, no good to be dead, I gotcha, you can really push the opponent's tempo back so much that your Kylo is easily going to be able to clear it and take care of it. I've also done turns where I'm just setting up, I go, okay, I think I'm not going to flip Kylo at 7 resources, I'm going to flip him at 8. And going into that turn, I just have I have both no good to me deads for some reason, and I just go no good to me dead your leader, no good to me dead your other thing. Then go into my next turn, you have nothing on board that can attack into my Anakin, so you have to, or my Kylo, so you have to set up killing the Kylo this turn, and then I go ahead and play the big flip, swing for damage, and if they don't have the setup, then you usually can find those 2 attacks, and you buy yourself time, right? But yeah, it's been really good. Definitely have liked it in here. Power of the Dark Side is just crazy. Obviously, it's crazy. It makes the opponent defeat something, and with your ability to control the board in plenty of other ways, it usually defeats a lot of what you want to. It costs 3. It's an ideal turn 2 play, just to keep their force units off the board. And it's an ideal late game play because they're going to run a bunch of stuff into your Kylo and maybe they'll kill him, but they'll have nothing left on board. So you go, cool. Next thing you play, I'm going to pay 3 and get rid of it. And then continue to just put down threats and attack you. Waylay also, look, I mean, yellow rules, okay? Like, yellow is just great. Cunning is fantastic, and Waylay is one of those reasons. It just, something a problem? Not anymore. I mean, maybe next turn, but not right now. It's not. Just return it to their hand. I love that. I think it is such a good play, and the way it lines up, allowing you to still, like, you can go into this Kylo flip turn and put out a moderately powerful Kylo, like 1 constructed lightsaber and the snapshot, and swing in. That's a moderately powerful, which is a 10 damage swing with Kylo. You can do a 10 damage swing immediately on 1 action, hold up 3, and then you can waylay whatever they're going to try and like attack with or something, or, it's just good. It's flexible. It does what you need it to do. I have 2 no glory only results in here. This was definitely a late iteration on the deck as I just continued to need more ways to deal with the board and more things that decks like Boba that put on so much pressure would put things like Ruthless Raiders into play that have that when defeated deal 2 and 2 to stuff. And like, I just kept taking this and I thought, I just need more ways to deal with their end game threats that don't end up with me still dying. So no glory only results has performed really well. I think just at this kind of perfect 2 of, it's gotten a little clunky when I tried it at 3. But with this 2, you can pretty easily have one going into the mid-late game, answer the opponent's kind of big threatening thing. And then, it's another way to keep those ships off the board so the pilots can't flip onto them. And it's randomly just like really sweet when you get to use their one defeated ability on like an ETH Koth or something. You're like, cool, I have the Force. I will kill that thing and then I will take it as a resource, which is fun. So yeah, it's pretty solid. And then finally, 2 Super Laser Blasts. It took me a while. I really was iterating on this deck, trying not to go that late into the game, but I just came into too many board positions where I just thought, if I had Super Laser in my hand, I could just play to hold them off for another turn, blast the board, then they played something, whatever, I don't really care, and then I flip Kylo, and now it accrues you so much advantage going into the Kylo flip, if you hold off the Kylo flip, that it's felt really, really worth it to be able to have a couple of these in the deck. And I think I would put a third in the side as well, just because, man, I mean, when the game goes late enough and this version of Kylo can drag it late enough, it's just super good. Okay, so finally, let's talk about the upgrades. And I want to try and make these pretty quick because I've talked about several of them already. First, Hotshot Blaster. Smuggle it. Put it in your resources, smuggle it. If you draw 3, I guess maybe you could pitch one to Kylo, but it's so good to smuggle. It's here to make Kylo Ren work, but it's good no matter what because it can get those extra 2 damage to win the game, which is really sweet. But I also like putting it on Secretive Sages and Karis to just trade with their early units. It keeps you resource neutral instead of spending a card from hand, and it deals with their board, so it's always great to play. Snapshot Reflexes. It's the Kylo combo. It's how your Kylo attacks the turn that you flip him, the action that you flip him, which is everything in Star Wars Unlimited. Action economy is just absolutely everything. So it's crazy, and it's pretty cool in here too. It's throwing on an Anakin and kill something that has 6 HP now, which is nice. Again, it's just efficient action economy. So yeah, I don't regret having 3 in here at all. You certainly could go down to 2 if you want to, but I think one of the benefits of the yellow version of this list is how consistently you get the snapshot combo. So I like that. 2 Corrupted Saber. This is really just, it's one of your villainy sabers because you really want ways to pitch those with Kylo to make sure you can set up Anakin. It is a 2-drop saber that puts some moderate stats onto Kylo, and so it kind of works in your math sometimes. It's not crazy, but it does the job. Electro Staff, actually like a little more, but the problem is it's not villainy, so you do occasionally run into like weird games where you haven't really played anything but like a Secretive Sage, and like you're like, I don't actually have a villainy card in my discard pile when I'm trying to play an Anakin. So I only have 2 Electro Staff in here because I just had to have more villainy upgrades. But Electro Staff is one of the sweetest upgrades to throw onto Kylo when the opponent does need to try and attack and kill him. It just makes it the math so rough in actually taking him out. It slots nicely, and it's a +2/+2 for 2. And as this isn't like the red version of Kylo, we can't do like crazy like holocron stuff to like push crazy attack damage. So we're happy to take the 2/2s for 2. Kylo Ren's lightsaber, one of, a lot in like the red decks where they have better options for pushing aggro, they will put the Kylo Ren's lightsaber into the sideboard. But I put it in here because we need those villainy upgrades that we can discard, and it's pretty good. That's it. It's pretty good. It stops Kylo from being exhausted, and my opponents always forget that, and they'll try to like use a Grogu on him. Like, you can't do that. I mean, you can try. It just won't do anything. But most importantly, 3 constructed lightsaber, because this is a legendary we all thought was really bad when it was revealed. At least, I don't know. Maybe I did, but I saw a lot of people also saying that, yeah, whatever, it's a chaff legendary. Constructed lightsaber is actually crazy. The stats that it gives are wild. The abilities that it gives are wild. In this deck, you're not going to get the Restore, but you are going to get the Raid 2 a lot, and you're getting the Sentinel sometimes. And the Raid 2, making it's a 4/3 lightsaber for 3. I mean, it's a dark saber for 1 less. It's good. That's really, really good. And the fact that sometimes it does a Sentinel thing instead is really cool too. So it's great. Math-wise, it's awesome on Kylo because you can pitch, if you find 2 constructed lightsabers, you're like hitting the jackpot. Basically, you pitch 2 and then you pitch Snapshot, and that is your perfect like turn 6 flip. 14 damage to do that, which is like really, really good. Obviously, it gets 28 health bases. That's the 2-shot, right? So crazy. Frozen Carbonite, next one. I love this card. This card has been obnoxious for a long time. It doesn't get run all the time. It's a little awkward with Power of the Dark Side. You want to make sure you kind of like run through your powers before you start freezing stuff in Carbonite. But man, just like some of those other cards, like No Glory or Waylay, it's just an answer to whatever you need to answer on board. The space units, freeze them. just freeze them up. Don't worry about it. Let them sit there. Yes, you can freeze a spaceship in Carbonite, apparently. We have a big enough freezing chamber to do it. This is one of those cards that I only pitch with Kylo if I absolutely need to, because obviously you don't want to play it out of the discard pile. It's just a solid answer to anything that isn't a leader in the game. Sometimes the opponent has tricks to get around it. Just be aware of that, like Qui-Gon Jinn decks, like, okay, fine, don't freeze their stuff. There you can probably pitch it, or just resource it is better. And finally, Jedi Lightsaber. I've occasionally play this, but the main purpose of it, obviously, is to pitch it to Kylo to have a heroism upgrade in the discard pile, so your Anakins are doing the crazy amount of -3/-3ing. Any game where you start with a Jedi Lightsaber and then any 2-drop, you kind of just auto keep the hand, snap keep. That's what you want, because it's going to be really easy to find a villainy unit and get it set in there. But if you find that heroism card, you are doing a great job already. And then when you get to that Anakin turn, you're going to feel really good about yourself. Otherwise, it costs 5 to play out of the discard pile on Kylo. And sometimes that's going to math and the math will math and it'll be good. But pretty rarely. That's not usually what you want. You'd rather be putting on a constructed lightsaber and an electro staff or something, because that's way more stats. It's way better. It just depends on sometimes like how many upgrades you've been able to pitch, when you've had to take the initiative a lot. All that stuff kind of adds up. But yeah, that's the deck. That's the idea. You're going to really control the game. You're going to try and punch in for damage when you can, using the benefit of your upgrades, your hot shots, your lightsabers to put it on some of your hard to deal with units, your Secretive Sage, your Shin Hati, your Darth Tyrannus. You're going to punch in for a bunch of damage. You're going to use that Kylo Ren, I know your story, to get some sweet card advantage and punch in for damage at the same time, because it's really fun to show the opponent that we know how rules work, and it's pretty cool. But otherwise, do as much damage as you can and set up for that perfect flip. Aim to hit with Kylo twice. 1 is good, twice is game winning. And try and manipulate the game for that to work. Go later if you have to. Build up to those super laser blasts, clear the board, get the Kylo down. It's a lot of game sense, right? It is a lot of game sense because it's effectively a combo deck. It is one of the closest things that the game has had to a combo deck. This isn't the full combo version, right? There's the full combo version that runs things like Shadowed Intentions and stuff. It goes to like turn 14, 15 to try and put out a Kylo that is literally unable to be dealt with. I had some of that stuff in for a little bit, but it didn't feel like it was going to work very well. A lot of the time it's very, very specific. I prefer this version that's a little more robust and generalized and just tries to actually close the game in a reasonable amount of time. But hey, your mileage may vary. Maybe build it how you want to with more of those upgrades if you want. But this is the version I like running. It's a lot of fun. It's cool. And again, we get to use fun rules interactions, and that's one of my favorite things. So I hope you guys do enjoy that. Give it a shot. Let me know. Now, we are going to really quickly go over some of the sideboard tech cards. If you are going to play as the locals, you want to sideboard and you want to deal with some of the problem decks, let's look at those. All right, now when it comes to sideboards, like I always say, please make your sideboard work for what you intend to play against, what your locals is like, what the PQ you're going into you expect to see. I can't give you a sideboard that works every time because Star Wars Limited sideboards are too small, and I can't just tell you, well, here's what the meta game is going to be, because there's too many different decks. But here's some of the cards that either I like running or I have been testing and trying out, and they've been pretty cool to see for me, but you make your own decisions. Some of the cards that I like here are that final copy of Super Laser Blast. I think that is very important going into those late game control decks where you do need to be able to continually try and accrue value wiping the board. It is pretty good to have, I mean, maybe not control decks, more like the mid-range style control decks. I'll have that probably written on there instead, because the true hard control decks don't really play anything until the very, very end of the game, where it still is okay there, but it's not going to accrue the kind of value that you're looking for. For the decks that are going heavy into space or just heavy aggro and you need to slow them down more, Outmaneuver is a great card that can help you build up to that Super Laser Blast turn. Also can just deal with those high space decks like Vader Yellow or something, or any of those Han decks that are playing a lot of ships as well. So Outmaneuver is always a decent option to have. And when we're talking about space, and when we're talking about Kylo Ren mirror matches, Bamboozle is a great card to have as running yellow. We can sometimes even get a free play with it, which can be really effective that turn we're trying to flip our own Kylo Ren, right? We're going to get into a Kylo Ren standoff against another Kylo Ren deck, and if they don't have Snapshot then you are able to kind of play your Kylo Ren out, get the attack in, they'll play their Kylo Ren, and then you can bamboozle it, exhaust it, unless they put Kylo's lightsaber on it, but they don't always run that main board, like I said, and then return the upgrades to their hand, so you effectively neuter their Kylo Ren turn, and then give yourself an opportunity to be able to potentially get another crack in with yours next turn. So that's really good in Kylo Ren mirrors, but also is very useful against pilots, pilot leaders especially, that can play it on ships. So Bamboozle, excellent card to have here. And now these last couple are, I mean, I think there's a lot of options here. You can definitely go, if you're trying to play against control, you can go deep and try and vigilance them also, since we are playing a lot of control effects. I think vigilance is a very good kind of standard answer to control decks, because you'll get other heavy control decks that just try and mill you out here because they know that you're low on threats. But a lot of those decks that are doing that run restock as well. So instead of aiming to try and like out restock them, I like to try this Radiant 7 route, as Radiant 7 against those decks is often going to say when played, deal 5 damage to their base, because they don't have anything in play, or you can kind of set it up so they don't. When that happens, then you play it, deal 7 to their base, they answer Radiant 7, that's cool. You play another one, deal 5 more to their base, I think it's at 7, deal 5 more to their base, they defeat it, play another one, they defeat it again, that's cool. When you run out, you can restock them back in, and then you can potentially keep doing that, and it kind of becomes a game of who can vigilance or restock. Vigilance versus Radiant 7ing more with the restock kind of war that's going on, this attrition war. And, you know, the decks that are built to do that, the like crazy Admiral Trench mill decks and stuff, you're not going to beat those. But the ones that just try and go, you know, I'm going to divert to trying to vigilance them out of the game, while I just control their board, those are the ones that are vulnerable to just taking 5 to the face every single time and then restocking when you get close to losing the game, and you restock all 3 Radiant 7s in. And other than that, Radiant 7 is a card that you can just play into other matchups, like those space heavy ones, as when the board's been pretty sufficiently dealt with, that is going to at least be a threat on board that either is going to neuter some damage you can take or deal 5 to their face, which combined with the pressure from Kylo might be enough to just take them out of the game anyway. So it's a decent option. It's fun to play with. I don't know if it's like the best necessarily card to have here, but I like it. I like playing with it. I've always liked Radiant 7. I want to play with it. So I think it's pretty solid. At least something to think about. And then finally, I did mention the restocks alongside the Radiant 7, but of course, just putting 2 restocks in, remember, is going to give you a lot of room. And then even with just 1 restock, the restock can choose itself to shuffle back in. So it's pretty easy to stop yourself from getting milled out just by having access to those. So it's always nice to have when you have a deck that is fairly cold to hard control. And this is a deck that is definitely colder to hard control than a lot of other ones. But again, your mileage may vary. Try them out, figure out what sideboard you like, but try the deck out in general. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile and this look at one of my favorite leaders in the game that's just very, I don't know, slightly different than some of the other Kylo decks that you may be seeing. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of the deck and how it goes for you. And until next time, hope you guys enjoyed that one. We'll see you in the next one.